The Last Whale's Song. In a quiet fishing village on the edge of a vast blue ocean, so a boy named Kai lived with his grandfather. Their home was a simple wooden hut near the shore, where the scent of salt water filled the air, and the sound of crashing waves never faded. Kai loved the ocean, not just for its fish, like the other villagers, or for its boats, like the sailors. He loved it because it was full of mysteries. He would sit by the shore for hours, watching the waves and wondering what lay beyond the horizon. His grandfather, an old fisherman, often told him stories about the creatures that lived beneath the surface. Whales, his grandfather would say, were once everywhere. They were the kings and queens of the ocean, wise and powerful. But now, they are nearly gone. Kai frowned. Why? People hunted them, took their oil, their bones, their meat. The ocean is quieter now. Kai thought about this as he watched the waves. He couldn't imagine an ocean full of whales, their great bodies rising and falling, their songs filling the water. But he wished he could. One night, as Kai lay in bed, he heard something unusual. It was a deep, low sound that rumbled through the air. It wasn't the wind, nor the waves crashing against the shore. It was something different. The next morning, Kai asked his grandfather if he had heard it. His grandfather shook his head. Maybe it was just the sea groaning, he said. The ocean makes many sounds. But Kai wasn't sure. He had grown up by the water. He knew the sounds of the sea, and this was something else. Over the next few nights, he heard it again, a long, deep call, far out in the ocean. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. Kai decided he had to find out what it was. Before sunrise, Kai prepared his small wooden boat. He packed food, water, and an extra fishing net just in case. He pushed the boat into the water and climbed in, paddling out to sea. The village slowly disappeared behind him, replaced by endless blue. Seagulls circled overhead, and the waves rocked his boat gently. Kai rowed for hours. At times he stopped and listened, waiting for the sound. Nothing. Doubt crept in. What if his grandfather had been right? What if it was just the sea? Then in the distance, something large moved beneath the water. The ocean swelled slightly, as if something enormous was just below the surface. Kai's breath caught. A moment later, a massive dark shape rose from the water. A smooth, glistening back curved above the surface, followed by a broad, powerful tail that sent ripples across the sea. A whale. Kai stared, his heart pounding. He had never seen a whale before, not even from the shore. The stories had not prepared him for its sheer size. The whale took a deep breath, sending a misty spray into the air, then slowly sank back into the water. Kai waited. A few moments later, the whale surfaced again, not far from his boat. It was moving slowly, as if tired, its dark eyes watching him. Carefully, Kai picked up his oar and tapped the side of his boat. The sound echoed across the water. The whale paused. Then after a long moment, it let out another deep, mournful call. Kai listened, the sound vibrating through the water, through his boat, through his chest. It was the same sound he had heard at night. This was the creature calling out. But no one had answered. Kai stayed in his boat, watching the whale as it moved lazily through the water. It didn't seem afraid of him. If anything, it seemed lonely. He thought about what his grandfather had said. Once whales had filled the ocean, calling to one another, their songs carrying for miles. But now, this one swam alone. He sat in his boat for hours, watching as the whale swam in slow circles, diving and resurfacing. It was as if it had no destination, no purpose, only the hope that one day it might find another of its kind. When the sun began to set, Kai knew he had to return home. He took one last look at the whale and whispered, "I'll come back." Then he rowed toward the shore, his heart heavy. When Kai returned to the village, he ran straight to his grandfather. "I saw it," he said, breathless. "The last whale." His grandfather's eyes widened. "You're sure?" Kai nodded. It was calling out, but no one answered. That evening, Kai told the villagers what he had seen. At first, many didn't believe him. "A whale?" some scoffed. "Not after all these years." But the older fishermen, those who remembered the time of whales, listened carefully. "If there is even one left," an elder said, "it means the ocean is not empty yet." Word spread beyond the village. Travelers carried Kai's story to other towns, to sailors, to people who had forgotten about the great creatures of the sea. Chapter 7. A Promise to the Ocean. Months passed and the villagers changed. They stopped hunting large fish that whales might need to survive. They told passing sailors to leave the waters undisturbed. They spoke of the whale, the last of its kind, and reminded people of what had been lost. Kai often returned to the sea, hoping to see the whale again. One evening, as he sat by the shore, he heard it, deep and strong, carrying across the waves. But this time, there was a second call, another whale. Kai's heart swelled. Maybe the ocean was not as empty as they had feared. Maybe, just maybe, the last whale was not the last after all. That night, the entire village gathered by the shore, waiting to hear the sound Kai had described. The elders sat on wooden benches, their eyes scanning the horizon, while the children whispered excitedly. When the call finally echoed through the night, a hush fell over the crowd. The villagers, who had once dismissed Kai's story, now listened with wide-eyed wonder. The sound was deep, ancient, and full of longing. Inspired by Kai's story, the villagers began working on a new tradition, one of respect for the ocean. They built a small shrine by the shore, not to worship the sea, but to remind themselves to protect it. Over time, sailors passing through the village also heard of the last whale. Many chose to change their routes, ensuring their ships would not disturb the creature's waters. Some even left gifts, carvings of whales, messages in bottles, promises to do better. One day, as Kai stood at the water's edge, he saw a sight that made his heart leap. Not just one whale, but two. Their backs broke the surface together, their tails rising and falling in perfect harmony. He watched as they swam away, disappearing into the deep. But this time, he knew they were not alone, and neither was he.